Listen up! There is a storm coming! Like nothing you have ever seen!
Well, g'day, folks. How you going? Hope you've had a, good time. While I've been away, I'm sorry I couldn't get to you once I got back on, under service area. One of the limitations and one of the things you need to remember when you go into these far flung places is you got to remember to take everything that you need. And while I did take everything I needed, I did in fact run out of a bit of battery capability and the ability to charge the phone in the end. So I apologize. Otherwise, there would have been something up on Sunday night maybe. But here we are. Look, thank you so much to everybody who has piled in tonight and all the great comments. Sunflower, lovely to see you in. I see Chris is in. Starseed, mate, you've had a big day. You're following my footsteps, getting your show banned or taken down. Not good, not good. There'll be nobody watching on Voice of Freedom on YouTube, on my channel, I don't think, for at least another week, maybe two. So None2K is the main YouTube channel, of course. Like and subscribe, folks. Let's see what the algorithm will let you do. None2K, N-U-N-N-2K, or you can go to Voice of Freedom, VOI space CEFREEDOM. And you can find it there on Facebook, or not Facebook. Well, you find it on Facebook too under my name, but YouTube's for those two. And then Rumble, of course, it's running there quite happily at this juncture. So you can find me under Ozai or the Voice of Freedom on YouTube. Some of you may have seen, I put together a little video today, which I said, Rob's probably not going to be very happy with me for letting out of the bag. Some people may have seen it, some people not. So here's a quick glance.
Okay, here's what we got so far. Not bad, some nice little chunky pieces there. He's out there digging up some more now. Let's see how Carl's going. Okay, mate, here you go, and give us some more pay up.
Give him a bit more, mate.
Shit. What?
Rob?
What? Hey, what's that?
Rob!
Hey, you
Shit!
kidding? Hey, no.
Rob! There you go. Some people can get lucky. Hey, really lucky. I saw some of the comments on the YouTube chat during this afternoon. One bloke nailed it. That is in fact lead painted gold, and that is a bullet hole. Where? There. Through it. Where did the lead come from? The lead came from a fire that came down through the mine a couple of years ago or a year ago. And a number of batteries just melted. And when they got back, they found just this pile of stuff. However, the lead is quite useful to them when they're setting up sluices and all that sort of stuff to figure out catch rates and make sure that the sluice is set correctly so that it will catch nuggets in nugget traps and different sized pieces of gold all the way through. And of course, that is something you would test in a nugget trap, or you break that down into little bits and pieces and run it through the sluice and see how it works. So, a little bit of fun with that. However, the gold that you saw in the pan at the front of that little piece is this gold here. And that is exactly 1/2 gram that I hesitate to say I found or panned myself, because while I did a fair bit of, I did some panning. Rob Tingay, the owner of Brothers Gold Mining and Prospecting, and the man who owns the Christmas mine that we were on, was teaching me. So I've never been panning, or at least the last time I was panning, it was at Sovereign Hill in Victoria, and I think I was there on a grade 2 excursion. So panning was a new thing, and it's an art you have to learn. The little bit that you saw, or maybe haven't seen yet, but I'm going to play you another piece shortly. You'll see a bit of panning in that. And I hadn't got covered in filthy, dirty water by that stage because I got so uncoordinated. I basically threw a pan full of filthy water over myself. There's a lot of interesting things you need to know when you go to a mine. Well, where do we start? So I got off the flight, caught up with Rob. We headed off to the Mulga. Now, when Rob caught me and picked me up from the airport, he made a couple of statements about things we needed to do, one of which was to get a tent. And we both thought that would be a much good idea. So off we headed to a big shopping centre and got tent. There were a couple of other things mentioned, but we were very excited about getting on the road and getting out there. And it was late. It's a long drive. It's about a 5.5 hour drive from Cairns out to the mine. We did need to stop and buy beer because it's a dry argument out there, and you take a lot of water and a lot of beer. So apparently them's the rules. We got out there and we got out there in the dark, which wasn't a good start, as there are 3 river crossings, and we did those in the dark. I don't know, about 10:30 at night, while we just settled in after the long drive and we're comfortable under the dome, we remembered we hadn't stopped at Woolworths. Now, why would you want to stop at Woolworths? Well, to pick up supplies would be an obvious thing. Never thought about it, really. A return trip just to get milk from the mine would be to go to the Palmer River Roadhouse. That is a 5-hour return journey. A 5-hour return journey. A beautiful drive. Here, let me show you a little bit of it. Just so we're all sure. Palmy on the Palmer. So there you go. That was a little bit of a look at just getting there. We didn't take too many supplies. Rob had 3 palmies, bloody great deal, I think, or 2 palmies, one for each of us. He had eggs, he had mushrooms. There were plenty of noodles, and I'm not likely to fade away. Great bit of little exercise there. Once I get coordinated enough to, be the earthquake. That's the way we were describing it. When you fill up your pan the first time with rocks and dirt and God knows what, and you start panning, it is be the earthquake. Put all the water in there and get liquefaction happening. I've learned all these fabulous words. But yeah, if you are planning on going out there, and I'm going to try and encourage you to do that, folks, supplies. Take supplies and a 4-wheel drive. But really, I can't thank Rob enough for allowing me the honour of going on to and playing in his bank account. He and his family's bank account. That is literally what he's allowed me to do. That's the little bit of gold I got out of it. But we spent a lot of time talking about other things and working on other things. And hopefully you can be part of that somewhere, folks. I'll have more to tell you about that as we go forward. Yeah, so there will be some burning, but as you can see, at the moment it is beautiful. So burning anything at the moment is difficult. However, we are just out of the wet, and the heat is coming. What was probably for me one of the most surprising things was Rob had been saying, oh, look, we generally, work in the morning until about, 9:30, 10 o'clock, might be 11 o'clock. But if it hits 36, 37 degrees, it's just too hot for the machines and everything else. So it's a bit like the Mexicans, siesta time until 3 or 4 in the afternoon when it cools down a little bit. So that's pretty easy to get used to. And it was very warm up there during the day. But what I noticed was the absolute silence in the bush. No animals, no birds, no insects, nothing moves. Nothing goes anywhere. Very few flies getting around at that time. Now, that's maybe they hadn't been born yet, or it is because of the thing that gets drummed into you when you're going out that way. Do not expend energy in the middle of the day. You will need it. It's much harder to recover it in the day. So we did a lot of sitting around from 10 till 4 and talking about things. And then in the night, we sort of muffed around and went into the pay pile. And where I was digging in that little video is actually a concentrate pile that Rob left at the end of last season, just at the back door, more or less, so they could just go out and grab it and run it through a sluice when they came back this year. And we just dug a little hole in it. But that little pile of pay, I had to pull weeds that were 6 foot high out of it. And their main pile or pay pile is covered in, not trees, but covered in growth that requires an excavator to clear it all off before they can start putting any of it through the machine and working. It's quite an eye-opening thing. The Palmer River Roadhouse is the first point of I don't know what civilization, I guess, is the best way of describing it. When you come in from the mine, and that's a 2.5 hour drive. As you see on the little video clip that I put there, some of that is definitely 4-wheel drive only, low gear first, and that's going up and down the hills. For the most part, at the moment anyway, the road in for most of the distance, especially into sort of Maytown, is pretty good. Not terribly corrugated at all. There isn't a huge amount of bull dust. What there are is a large amount of cows with bloody huge horns. You find yourself driving through Palmer Station on this road. So be aware, folks, if you are going to go out this way, and I am going to encourage you to do it. There are many things living on the side of the road. There are no fences. What I didn't see the whole time were kangaroos. Never saw one roo on the road out there. And I saw horses, big big Brumby horses. I knew we had them down south in the Victorian Alps, but I didn't know we had so many Brumbies running wild in far North Queensland. And they are magnificent, strong, healthy horses at the moment. But apparently, after the season, this season ends, they'll be very skinny. They'll be looking a bit weary because during the dry, they're always on the move. They're always looking for something to eat, and unfortunately, it dies off, or it gets burnt out, which takes me back to this chunk. So the fire that came down on the guy's mine and created that damage was started by poachers. So where this mine is located, it is located in something called the R16, which is the Australian Federal Gold Reserve. And as you drive into the area, there are very large signs that say you're not allowed to metal detect inside that area. And of course, signs of laws are only made to be broken, we all know. And there are plenty of people that are doing that. Now, there's lots of government land out there they could be walking around on, but many of them choose to go and walk on private claims. That's a very dangerous, dangerous, dangerous thing to do if you are a metal detectorist and you plan on going into the Palmer River. Can I just warn you from my extremely limited perspective and knowledge, do not do it. Your life is not worth a little bit of gold. And that is exactly what you're risking. The Palmer River is no place for pussies. And and I think I was told that on more than one occasion. It is a vast area. And I mean, we've all heard of the Never Never. Well, I now really appreciate what the Never Never is. It never, never ends. That footage, the sped up footage in the clip that I played you is, I've got the trip essentially 2.5 hours long, and I can compress that down into about 8 minutes, but you don't get to experience the sheer beauty of the trip out there. The landscape is phenomenal. If you've never been to far North Queensland, folks, I guarantee you it's nothing like you thought it was. And as you come up off the coastal plain out of Cairns and rise up through the Daintree over the Great Dividing Range and then head out into the Palmer, you will be staggered at the way our country changes. Its beauty is amazing. And every one of us has a right to go and experience it any which way we feel we should deserve, without impinging on others' rights. Some of those rights include owning a parcel of the Palmer River, having businesses on it, that kind of thing, and having poachers come on and set fires on the land. Why do they set the fires? Well, because there is a lot of long grass, and it's dry grass. And what can't you do with a metal detector in long, dry grass? You can't swing it. You cover a lot more ground waving your metal detector arms width, whichever way around. And some of these metal detectorists who go into, and some, I'm not saying that all are poachers. There are avenues for people who want to go metal detecting in the Palmer to do so. In fact, I think the Palmer Station, or it might be Palmerville Station, I'm not sure, have a way you pay $250 a camping fee if you like, and you can metal detect on the station for a week. And you do want to go for a week for this sort of thing. And there are other ways you can do it. If you happen to know somebody, they might let you on, they might not. But you would only ever do it with permission. And there are cattle owners up there, cattle property owners up there too. I'm led to believe who, if approached the right way, may or may not let you on the property. You should always investigate, always ask, because, as you drive get off the bitumen and onto the dirt road, there is a sign showing a metal detectorist who was shot and killed there some years ago. They still haven't found his body. They did find the people that killed him, but they still haven't found the bloke's body. So be very careful about what you do when you go into the Palmer River. And if you are going in, you go in with somebody who has given you permission to do so, to be on their land. That is of the utmost importance. And g'day to Linton and Graham, I think it was, who you saw in the video, came in pulling a little caravan there out there this week doing just that. So I hope they have a very great time like I did. It really is a hell of an experience, folks. And Rob, who I commend to you, go and check out Rob's site on YouTube. I'm just going to paste it into the comments right now. Brothers Gold Mining and Prospecting. Now, Rob's channel is not monetized. He just puts his own stuff up there because it entertains people, and you'll get a bit of an idea of what he's been up to and how he's been doing things. And we are looking forward to giving you the chance, folks, to work with him and bring you some of this. Would you like some gold? Let's face it, unless you've got $3,000 and a bit over now to buy an ounce of gold, the only way people like me are going to get it is to go out and dig it up for ourselves. You probably think you're not capable of doing it. I thought I wasn't capable of doing it. I'm probably not, in all honesty, capable of doing it for extended periods of time, but it is very healthy. Good work, walking up and down hills. I really enjoyed myself, and the exercise that I got from doing it in all forms. And the backs of the legs are still a bit sore, but that doesn't mean you have to walk uphill and down dale. You can be the person that drives the sluice or does all the panning. There is plenty of opportunity out there. Get your family amongst it. Learn how to pan. And that's what we're going to give you an opportunity to do with Voice of Freedom. Learn how to pan, and we'll give you some dirt. We'll give you a guarantee that there'll be some gold in that dirt, and learn how to pan. You'll know a basic. Well, you'll know whether you've got all the gold or not, because you'll know exactly how much is in there, and only by panning and then weighing it all up will you know if you've got it all. That's how you improve your panning skill, because if you get the little gold bits floating out the end of the pan, you're not making money. That's just going into tailings. Not good. So I have a panning plan, folks, and it may involve a competition. So my thoughts would be, watch this space, get good at panning. It's going to be a very interesting show indeed when we get that one together. The Galactic Larrikins, what marvelous blokes they are. I'm trying to convince them to be involved in all this, and certainly one of them is heavily involved at this stage. We won't be going up there as we had thought might be going up there to spend maybe a month or even 2 months working this year, and trying to build a bank behind Voice of Freedom so that I can stop asking you for help, because there's nothing more humiliating, and I absolutely hate it. It's something I find very difficult to do, and I want to change that. So, like I said, I haven't got $3,000 to go and buy an ounce of gold, much less $100,000 to go and buy a kilo of gold. If I was ever to get access to any kind of gold, I would probably have to put some effort into it, get my fat ass, and go and dig it up. Well, I'm keen and very prepared to go and do that. And if you are, well, there might be an opportunity, but be careful what you wish for. It's not as easy as it sounds. Traps for young players. When metal detecting, and you get a target signal, don't immediately start digging feverishly into concrete like dirt and screaming, I've got one, before stepping back, picking up the detector and waving it over the hole and finding the beep there again, jumping down onto all fours and waving the sand over the head and not hearing anything. Wave the detector over the hole, there's no beep anymore. When you go metal detecting, do not, nada, nix, do not wear steel cap boots. There's a reason. So, found myself digging a few holes that were unrequired. Rob, marvelous man, set me straight. So thank you very much, Brother Rob. And there's a whole heap of other great things we learned there over the weekend. went to an amazing little place called Maytown, and I'll cut another video together and play that for you at some point this week. Maytown was built in the 1880s, I think, or early 1890s, and was only in existence for a few years. But it was a hub. There were 30,000 people in the area at the time, and now all that's left of Maytown are stumps where the houses and places of business used to stand, and even them, a lot of them are gone now after these fires that are set and go through the place. But there is a very great standout feature that is a solid slate gutter that runs all the way down Main Street. And a few years ago, some historical society folks got together, put a time capsule together, planted that out there. I think that was in about 1983, and cleaned up the whole Maytown area. Cleaned the gutter, gave it a big wipe back, and they put plaques out in front of each of the properties. Now, there's not much at those properties anymore except the plaque, but the history of the area is simply staggering. The amount of Chinese that came into our gold-laden north and made their fortunes is staggering. The amount of Westerners, and I'm not saying Australians here, because when you really think about it, the first generation of firstborn on the land Australians were only just starting to have their own kids. So anybody who came and mined really in the Palmer River back in the late 1880s was probably a single bloke who's come out of fighting in any of the wars, the Boer War or the Crimean War or whichever, because there are a lot of different nationalities up there. And they came out, they landed at Cooktown, because Cairns wasn't even conceived in those days. They landed at Cooktown, which was a bustling hive at the time, and set out into the goldfields to make their fortune. Some of them never made it. Many of them never made it. Many thousands of animals died dragging out supplies over hills and down mountains and up unbelievable heat, through unbelievable heat. And of course, heat exhaustion was one of the main killers back in those days too. A lot of the times when you're running around and doing metal detecting, you will dig up things you don't want. But I find this really, really interesting. This is a metal sole for a shoe. We put it somewhere around the 1900s, early 1900s. But that is just something that got a little break in it here on this corner here, but that's it. And you pick up plenty of the tacks that drive this into the heel of the shoe as well. All very frustrating, I suppose, if you're a metal detectorist after having dug yourself a 4-foot deep hole in 37-degree heat in the middle of nowhere. And then you pick up this, which I'm sorry, that really doesn't show too much of it, but I did dig up a picture of one I prepared earlier. This is a Bell and Black matchbox. So that's essentially what it looked like, or that's what a good old one looks like. But this one is, well, a bit worse for wear, as you can see. She's been crushed and dug up, and yeah, so a lot of that. There is also something called devil's dice, which I don't have close to me, but devil's dice are bits of ironstone that have been squared off to look like dice. Naturally, this occurs naturally, and they're all different sizes, from very small to very large, and sort of in different states of formation, but terribly interesting. Back onto the Chinese miners, something that I learned from Rob, and I can't begin to tell you how interesting it was just to sit down and talk with a guy who has so much history and knowledge of the place. And I guess if you're going gold mining up there, that's what you've got to have, historical knowledge. You've got to know where the old timers have been, what sort of gold they got out of there, whether or not it was worth them being there, or why they moved on. Did they get everything that was there? So the historical knowledge, I'm not heaping on Rob as the guru. I'm sure there are many others up there, including the Fitzgerald family, who, if you're a follower of Parker Schnabel and Gold Rush, he stayed on their property. We drove past that on the way in. Hello to the Fitzgeralds. Love to see you at some stage. Love to drop in and say hi. And I did call into the Palmer River Roadhouse and say g'day to Andy as well. If you're going past the Palmer River Roadhouse, I can tell you their burgers are absolutely amazing, especially when you've been out in the bush for 4 days with no woolies. But yes, the burgers was stunning. The beer was cold. There's a little museum in there, all sorts of interesting things you can go and have a look at. I think they've got a Goliath spider floating around in there too. When I say floating, literally floating in a jar. We did go out and pan. Well, we went out and dug some creek stuff, something out of the bedrock, and we were walking up and down this creek looking for ideal places to grab sample. And I found a Goliath spider, or a bird-eating spider's nest in the side of the creek. And the way that you tell if there's anyone home or if it's a live spider nest is if there is a cobweb out the front of it, a big web out the front of it. And this one had quite a large web out the front of it. Now, how big was the hole that this thing lived in? I could put my fist in the hole. I didn't, but I sort of measured it up. Yeah, huge. Not keen at all on seeing the bird-eating spiders, but they're there, absolutely there. But they stick to themselves pretty much unless you happen to disturb their nest. If I am going to disturb their nest, I hope it's with an excavator and not a hand pick. That's all I'm saying. I'd be much happier doing it in an excavator. The Chinese, I keep going back to them. There's a reason for that, because they played a formidable role all around the world in mining operations. You name me a mining boom where the Chinese weren't there in large numbers. I cannot think of one. No American gold rush, no Canadian gold rush, no Australian gold rush was complete without literal hordes of Chinese coming in and digging their share of the gold. What I learned from Rob is most of the Chinamen that came out here and survived and got gold and got a good quantity of gold, a number of ounces, many ounces in some cases. The price of an ounce of gold back then was not as it is today. It was obviously a lot less, and it was done in pounds and shillings. So I forget the exact number now, so don't hold me to it. But the numbers I'm going to quote are round about accurate. Rob suggested that in Australia at the time, back in the 1890s, early 1900s, an ounce of gold out of the Palmer River would have got its owner £3.6 or 7, something like that, when they went to trade it for paper money. That's what it would have been worth an ounce, £3.6 or something like that. Now, that's back in the day, pretty bloody good money. However, the Chinaman would get the same price, 3 point whatever, but if he went home and sold his gold in Hong Kong, he would get £7 and a few shillings for it per ounce. So the Chinese government, even back then, were encouraging their people to go off country, find gold, bring it back where government, and I guess this goes back into the emperor's times as well, made sure that there was an incentive to bring the gold back to China. It was a two-form incentive. Bring the gold back. China harbors the gold, and obviously China has a lot of gold and are still buying it all over the world, still mining it all over the world. The other happy side of that was that their Chinamen were returning home to the motherland all the time. So there was a lot of international experience, if you like, with the world returning to the country as it was growing as well. So I found that terribly interesting. And I wonder whether or not it still happens today. If you had an ounce of gold here, would the Chinese pay any more for it than somebody here in Australia would pay the spot price, which I haven't looked today. But when I went into the Palmer River, I looked at what an ounce of gold was worth on the market, and I think it was $3,018 an ounce Australian. that put the value of this, 0.5 of a gram of gold at around $50. 4 days later, when I came out and looked at the price of gold, it was at $3,058, putting the price of this at $60. This is how gold works, folks. You get it in your hand, you hold it. It goes up, the value goes up with it. Not like trading it for that bit of paper, the $100 note, the $50 note, or the $60 of that. Hang on to it. A bit like the silver, gold and silver. Should probably mention I will be having Catherine Smith on the show for a bit of a chat at some stage this week. There's been some interesting developments when you go to the bush. Nothing to be alarmed about, and hopefully we will have some news to discuss on self-managed super funds, but also the value and how gold has gone through the roof. The price of gold is escalating. Yes, you do see little drops, and then the next day, 2 days later, it bang up again. Silver is doing exactly the same thing. The overall trend for both precious metals is up, unlike banks, the overall trend of which is very, 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 very badly down, particularly in America. Now, 753 banks so far have collapsed in the United States of America. Most of those are smaller banks, and the ones that aren't really going to concern you and me, but might concern the odd person in outback Midwest America with a bank in their local or a little local bank. They're the ones that's gone under. Now, the big ones that go down, or the big ones that are holding the debt of the littler ones, are being bought up by JP Morgan Chase. Now, we all know JP Morgan and Chase Manhattan, Chase Bank. They very big players and have been. JP Morgan have been playing since they sank the Titanic. Have we spoken about the Titanic? It didn't hit an iceberg. No. It was blown up, deliberately sunk, and the people who were opposing the introduction of the Federal Reserve in America died. A week later, the Fed was put up by the Rothschilds and co, and no opposition was heard. JP Morgan was meant to be on the Titanic, but got off it. It was meant to be all the big rich families of America doing the big Titanic trip over. But JP Morgan got off it half an hour before it sailed, left everybody else on it to die. So the story goes, believe it or not? That is the question. Anyway, how did I get onto the Titanic story? Oh, yes. All right. JP Morgan are buying everything up. Now, we know that there is a recession. We know that the world is struggling. We know that there are too many new taxes. We know that the price of fuel is through the roof. Interest rates going up and up and up and up and up, and then having a pause and then going up and up and up again. People are very surprised that the interest rate rise from the Reserve happened last week. Why? They told us there was definitely going to be one more. They paused, I think, the month before in February. Didn't do a rise then, but did say it was going to require another one in the following month. So I don't know why anybody was surprised. The Fed, what they should have been surprised about, and the bit that hasn't seemed to have sunk in, is the fact that the Federal Reserve now doesn't have the right to set the rates anymore. Yeah. Looking forward to the new board that's going to be appointed that sets the rates, and instead the Federal Reserve Board, or our Reserve Bank Board, will look after currency, whatever that turns out to be. I sincerely hope it's this, rather than, the folding bits of plastic that they attribute some value to these days. Got to get your value behind you, folks. If you have super and you need it safe, because that's all you got, my advice to you would be look into getting a self-managed super fund. There is responsibilities when you do this. You must follow those responsibilities, but it's not hard to do. And the big difference being that the value of your super fund when you are holding bars of this gold, bars of it, when you're holding the bar, your value in super goes up. If the big super company is holding your money, what happens? The value goes down if the market crashes. But if you're holding the gold, doesn't matter what the market does, not one iota, because your value, the ounce of gold, is going to be what it is, the spot price of the day. So I would suggest, folks, if you have the opportunity and you can't go out and find a gold mine somewhere to go and work, or you don't have one in your backyard, then maybe buy a gold coin, buy a silver coin, buy whatever you can, gold or silver. Silver is, in my estimation, the better pick because it's cheaper and you get more of it. That's not necessarily a good thing, I guess, if you've got a whole heap of it and have to move it because it's bloody heavy. But anyway, there you go. Starseed, what's going on with you? You lost all your super in the 2008 crash, all 72 grand of it, mate. That's yeah, well, I don't know. My super was in the 2008 crash, but I don't know that I've never had 72,000 in it. So no, my super is now a donation to the bastards that reside in Parliament. Unfortunately, I'm resigned to that fact because I refuse to jump through all the hoops and chains they require of me, and that is maybe one of the decisions that you'll have to make if you decide you want to do a self-managed super fund. There are certain things you have to do, certain things I am not prepared to do. So for that end, the $24,000 in super that I have will be whittled away in fees and eventually stolen from me. And even if I did want it, they'd find an excuse to take it off me. So what's $24,000 going to give me in life? You know, pay a bit of fuel for the year. I'll grant you. That's about it, though. Yes, the new board, Christoph. Yeah, exactly. The new Reserve Bank board that will be setting our interest rates is the outsourced consultants. And I believe they're going to be politicians involved with that. Yes, mate, there is no sense in what government is doing. But what do you do? Did you... I mean, I found it very difficult. But I did see a small portion of the coronation in news bits and grabs through yesterday. And if you were ever in any doubt about who is a sovereign, what a sovereign is, and how to tell the difference to or oaths and how important oaths are, I commend that you have a look closely at the crowning of Charlie and the crown they use. They even name it the St. Edward's crown. That is the Catholic crown. That is the Roman crown. So the oath he swore to was to Roman law, not to the people. He wanted us to swear an oath to him, saying that we will faithfully follow him and serve him. However, I don't think too many people took that oath. And if you did, well, you're not likely to be watching this show. You'd have to be very, very asleep to sit there and take that sort of an oath in your lounge room, hand over your heart. Yes, I will follow. I will follow Charlie anywhere. No. And he changed his oath. Not that I've seen this bit, but somebody suggested to me that he changed his oath to us in a way that while he mouthed the words of service, it was worded in a way that we should be serving him rather than us. He's serving us, which is the way, pardon me, the sovereign should be. The sovereign used to be an elected position back in the day until governments and corrupt bastards changed it. A sovereign was elected from all the sovereigns in a community. That's everybody. They raised somebody up to be I'm calling them the first public servant, the number one public servant, because the sovereign was one of many sovereigns. They would just be somebody who was good at admin and, had a good fair and right thing of decency and yada, yada, yada. And the people raised them up. That's where our sovereigns came from, our crowns, our monarchs came from. And if the people didn't like that sovereign, because that sovereign was doing awful things to the people, then they threw them out and put a new one in. And history is littered with tales, particularly British history is littered with tales of just those sorts of rise-ups and family squabbles and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's I think it's been a long week. Everything is tying in to some pretty weird shit going down, I think, around the world at the moment. I haven't had much time today to catch up with too much. The phone hasn't really stopped ringing all day. There's been one or two little bushfires to put out, and a couple of catch-up calls that I've had to make. Hopefully some good news soon on, just hopefully some news soon on Paul Offey and the Freedom Truck. There's been some discussions in the last week or so. Whether or not there's going to be anything comes of them, we'll wait and see over the next month. But failing that, 31st of July, we will want as many of you folks who would like to come and support Paul in Canberra at the Supreme Court to come and support him. That'll be the first idea and attempt that, we may not need you in Canberra that day, but when the Supreme Court calls him forward for the case, if that's the way they insist they're going to go, they'd be mad. Then we're going to get as many people to Canberra as we can to support Paul, and just let everybody in the judiciary and everywhere else know that we know what's going on, we know how it works, and if prove us wrong, throw this case out, prove us wrong. But I don't think you've got the brains to throw the case out yet. And that's why every day it goes longer, like so many other things, particularly in Canberra, the DPP have got their hand in, are eroding the confidence of the people in the judiciary. We have no confidence in the police anymore. I don't think there is a state in Australia where the majority of the people have confidence in the police, have faith in the police. It used to be that you would send your kids, you'd read the Riot Act to them and say, never be afraid to go up to a police officer and always tell the truth. Well, is that the kind of advice you offer today when you see your kids going out to protest? The police are there to look after you. The police, in so many facets of their work, in so many states, they're all the same. Willingly or unknowingly working like lemmings and destroying families, destroying lives. They are making up laws as they go along, literally writing up charges with made up laws on them. They are serving warrants that are unsigned by magistrates. They are producing fake documents to put into a judicial system that doesn't recognize them but still processes them. It is just unbelievable that you still think there is much faith that the people have in police, in the judiciary, or in government. And how much longer do you think that the people are going to just acquiesce to the people they have no faith in to look after them, to do the right thing by them, to protect them? How much longer do we think that's going to last? What's going to be the catalyst? I don't know. I can tell you the best place to be when that happens is probably on a gold mine in the Palmer River, keeping your nose the hell out of it and wait until the dust settles, so to speak, and go back and pick your house. There's a lot of frightening times ahead of us, I get the feeling, folks. the thing that I've been hearing most today is rumblings that there is great things coming this week, maybe 2 big things coming this week. I'm not a person to tell you that there is anything coming this week because I don't do dates. There's no point. I have seen some interesting things that do correlate with a crash. Oh, JP Morgan being one of them, Morgan Chase. That's what we were at with Titanic. Right, so the market is being held up financially by JP Morgan Chase. These financial institutions that are crashing, 753 of them this morning, are being propped. The financial industry is being propped by the huge money behind JP Morgan Chase. And so the banks that are requiring saving, that have to be saved, will be saved provided they add to the shoring up of the market. Because we've got interest rates going mad, we've got everything else going mad, and yet, the market is going up. They're telling us there's more value in it. No, it's being pumped. It's being pumped. And at some point, JP Morgan Chase, I believe, it's only my opinion, but I believe JP Morgan Chase are going to burst. And that is going to be the Lehman moment for us all, the Lehman Brothers moment. If that doesn't mean anything to you, look up the Lehman Brothers crash. But yeah, JP Morgan Chase, they will be carrying quadrillions of dollars of debt and playing it on the market. Deferring it off the market. So watch that space. Watch for more financial institutions collapsing around not just America, but the UK potentially as well. After the crowning, the St. Edward's crown, bastard. I believe that there is... or was some sort of concert put on, wouldn't be watching that. But I found the most funny and interesting thing about that was they couldn't get any British performers to want to headline it. In fact, the best they could do was some American Idol judges from America. Katy Perry, I'm not going to go there. And Lionel Richie. Now, Lionel was just over in the south of France. Apparently his daughter just got married. So he was clearly... looking to recoup the costs of that just a little bit. But Lionel Richie, interesting choice for a British monarch coronation, wouldn't you have thought? Also, Katy Perry, another American. I believe there were some composers, British composers, and whatnot that were invited to perform, but and took up the offer. But the news all round was how many big name British artists like Ed Sheeran were invited to perform and said, no, thanks. Nah, not interested. Good on you. Move on. So interesting things there. There were some interesting words in a number of the oaths that Charles took. I haven't got the full video of that to go through just yet. So once I've cut that out and had a better look at it, I think I'll be able to better explain what I mean by that. Their symbology means everything, folks. Symbology means everything. And as Q has been saying, symbology will be their downfall. Well, it was all on display during that ceremony there. So if you had decided to record it for whatever reason, go back and watch it, or if you can get it on a download or whatever. Don't go and look at all the famous names and faces. Go and have a look at the things that they are wearing. If there are close-ups on certain brooches, certain tiaras. And I would... I'm going to track down, or I'm going to try and track down a little bit of the background on the... I don't want to call it a tiara because they weren't allowed to wear tiaras, but the Princess of Wales and her daughter wore these little laurels, I want to call them, that looked like they were stainless silver leaf kind of laurels. They were told not to wear tiaras because it would detract from the horse's crown. And they didn't want to do that. So there were these laurels. Now, the only other time I've seen these laurels is in Roman times. That's the same sort of headwear that the Romans, Caesar would have worn. So I need to just go back. I've only seen limited images. I need to go back and have a good close look at those. But that's what that looks like to me at first glance. More Roman imagery in the service. So, yeah, not very nice, folks, at all. Let me have a bit of a glance here at a few of the questions, if there are any. Oh, yeah. Just having a bit of a look. The first Australian police were born out of the best behaved criminals from Port Arthur. Yeah, and Black Sheep is probably up for corroborating that, just between you, me, and the Outpost, Chris. Yeah, you know, some interesting bycatchers. Post-war families, you know, were able to, get a bit of tin. Now, up in the Palmer River, there is tin. You can mine quite a lot of tin. And back when gold mining was frowned upon and you couldn't get a gold mining license, you could go tin mining. The happy bycatch of tin mining is gold. So if you've got a tin mine, there's half a chance you've got gold in them there tins. Hard rock mining is another thing that didn't get really to talk about, but and they don't run on Rob's mine, the Christmas mine, but there is plenty of quartz ore up there, and a hard rock mining operation, a couple of hard rock mining operations, I think, are in operation up there, but yeah, a little one out the on a back corner of the Christmas lease might nearly net, you know, a ton an hour of ore, could probably net some pretty nice little numbers. I learned a lot about geology. Rob was really great showing me the differences in the rocks and being able to see in the earth, like, if you like, in the historic layer of the earth. And as he says, some of the dirt that they're digging out, some of the pay dirt they're digging out, is from the prehistoric era. This stuff hasn't seen light in millions of years. And I will admit that when you are panning, and I'm sorry I can't really show you this gold any better than this at the moment, but when you're panning and you do the peel where you just roll the water back over and the gold reveals itself in the pan, it's a pretty cool feeling to know that you're the first person to see that in 50 or more million years. You know, it's come up from the heart of Mother Earth and been forced out of its reef, been slid down mountains, bashed against rocks, rolled down rivers, where it finally settled in a crack and a crevice and got buried by gravel and stone and shit and God knows what over the years. Right up until you come out with your metal detector, a pan, a shovel, and a desire to get some of this. There's going to be a chance for you to do it, folks. If you want to do it, going to be a chance to do it. August. If you are interested, I would like to get a whole bunch of us together and go to Maytown in August. There is a Back to Maytown, and I'll play some video of that maybe in tomorrow night's show. I didn't have time to cut it out today. There is a Back to Maytown, 5th, 6th, and 7th of August. I will have details on how you can. I think there's a webpage. If you maybe Google Back to Maytown 2023, you'll get details. But if you are at all interested, I'm going to be getting in contact with the Back to Maytown historical folks and seeing whether or not we'd be able to come along and stay for the weekend. And I'd love to go up and do a show up there, particularly from Maytown. It's on top of the hills and the views are amazing, absolutely amazing. You'll need a tent. You'll need something to drink, something to keep it cold, and a bit of fuel, because it's a long way from nowhere. but it will be an exciting little trip, and there will be all sorts of historical things happening over the weekend, I'm led to believe, and maybe we can even add to that. And this is where your panning skills are going to need to lift their game, folks. If you're going to be part of it, and you might want to get some of this gold, you're going to need to know how to pan. That's the biggest hint for you. So thank you, folks, for giving me the time to go off and do that thing with Rob last week. It was fortunate that the air flights were very, very cheap, and that we really only had one cost, and that was the tent and the fuel to get out there. We forgot the food completely, but I don't waste away. There's plenty of enough for me to go around. I reckon I could go 4 months without having to eat and still be okay. We will be better prepared next time, and yes, there will be a next time. We are definitely going back. And if you would like to come, then get in contact with me, Carl at VoFHQ.com. Signify you are interested in a little road trip, because that's what it is, a little road trip, about 2,500 kilometres from Brisbane to Maytown, I would say. And the last 80 kilometres of it is off-road. You won't need a four-wheel drive, low gear, but a four-wheel drive would be useful. You won't need low gear, though. It's pretty gettable, or at least it was over the last few days. So that may change. Yes, folks, please. Thank you, Keefe. Mate, you're a legend. Don't forget to hit the like button, folks. Yeah, the bastards at YouTube have been... they have a policy where they pause your memberships and they pause your subs, and they pause everything. So I don't think I've got a like on this show in, I don't know. I don't check them that often, but months. There probably have been likes. There probably have been people that have subscribed, but I haven't been allowed to. That has been what I've discovered with emails. People have said, "Oh yes, I tried to subscribe to you, and I got this excuse or that excuse or the other excuse about why they couldn't subscribe at that time." That's just what YouTube does. So that's why I seem to be permanently stopped at the one number. So if you can like and subscribe, if you are watching None 2K for the first time, or if you are watching any other channel on Rumble, for instance, please then give us the thumbs up there too. But then slip across to YouTube, go to None 2K, NUNN, the number 2K, and find this show and give that a like and subscribe as well, if you would, please. And we'll just see whether or not we can make any dent in the algorithm. It's not about the money, folks, because trust me, they don't. I think $136 I think I'm expecting from them. That was my projected earnings. So yeah, suppressed beyond all existence. So I think it was $136 I saw today was my projected earnings for the month off YouTube. So nobody's getting rich here off that one, but we might get rich off the gold. Fingers crossed. If you want to do that, let me know. I'm going to get a list of people together who are interested, and we'll go on a little road trip. There will be a lot of interesting things to see and do up there. And thank you again to Rob and his family for allowing me the honour of going into their gold mine and having a bit of a play around. It truly is an honour, and not something anybody really gets to do on a regular basis. So if at all in their life, I found it an amazing learning experience, not just about the mining, but the history of the area. I learned more about the history of far North Australia in the last week or so than I've done my entire life. So, and I owe that all to Rob Tingay. So thank you very much, brother. I had a great time with you. We're mates. And as Mairead, his wife, put it, we're all part of the family now. And you can be too, folks. It's that simple. So give me an email, carl@vofhq.com, and we'll do that. I've got 3 text messages from people asking me to play that little video clip again that I made up that shows the drive-in. Do you want to see that again as the play out for tonight? Because I can do that if you want. Do a travel channel. Yeah, we will, Donovan. That's part of the plan. We will do a little bit of traveling. I didn't realize I enjoyed four-wheel driving quite as much as I did too. So that's just a very small amount of the vision that I took. So yeah, it was really useful having a GoPro, and one that works. So yeah, very handy. But if you want to see more of it, I'll obviously cut a few more bits together, because I did do a little bit of a tourist tour, if you like, last Saturday with Rob. But it's difficult. You can't go too far, because unless you take fuel, you'll run out of fuel before you get back to the petrol station, which is the Palmer River Roadhouse. So yeah, there's a fine line to walk out there. It really is the outback. You're a long way from no one. Yes, absolutely, Billy. Tedros, God love him, and the WHO have declared the COVID emergency over just before Charlie was crowned. Yep. And then there's that idiot Tracy Spicer, who likes to wear a mask while on planes, suffering long COVID. I think she was the first person in Australia to use the term long COVID, and so then suffer from it. Everybody else who's had long COVID seems to have gotten over it, except for Tracy Spicer. And who am I to have a go? I mean, long COVID is long. How long's a piece of string? But apparently she doesn't need to wear the mask because she's got long COVID when she's invited on to do a TV interview, or when she has a public appearance she's being paid to attend or promote, rather. You know, a ticket selling event that she's going to be profiting from. No, then you don't need to wear a mask. But not sitting on an aeroplane and trying to preach to somebody beside you about long COVID. Yeah, that's fine. Tracy Spicer. There are stories I could tell you about there, industry stories. But I wasn't there. I never saw them. And allegations are one thing, but proof is something else. Yes, this is the big story I was thinking was going to come out last week, Andy. There are 3,000 people chasing the government for injuries. Yep. So there is a new document that has been released, and I'll dig that out. It's somewhere in my emails. There's a new document that has been released that indicates the exact number of claims that have been made against government for injuries after the jabbity jab. So that number is significant, and this is the government's own instigated service, if you like. But if you are planning on availing yourself of this service and taking whatever bribe they try and offer you, please don't. It's not going to be enough. I know the injury is awful that you must have suffered, but you will deprive yourself of everything if you take their offer now, because their offer will make you feel like a king for a year and then leave you sick, dead, and dying a year later, if not before the end of that year. So please, I understand each situation, each one's personal situation is probably difficult and different, but please be very, very, very careful about accepting any offer from the government by way of compensation for your injuries yet. Just leave it at that. I've got a dog that's outside going absolutely mad. I'm not sure if you can actually hear her at the moment. My daughter has clearly got a set of headphones on and doesn't want to go out and do much about that. The dog is freezing to death, as is her owners, can I tell you. Brisbane today, bloody cold. 3.7 was the apparent temperature at Brisbane Airport at some point this morning. And I don't think it was much different about half an hour ago. It is bloody cold outside. Tracy Spicer's stories are here. I think I can go down that. I'm just trying to scan down, see if there are any questions here that I can answer right away. Sorry, did I get an answer to the question? Do you want to see that clip again? Yes, it does. Okay, all right. Looks like I've got a few affirmatives there. Sunflower, you've got your heater on. God love you, woman. I hope you are keeping your toasty bits warm, because I don't have a heater in here. And in fact, we don't have a heater in the house. It's amazing. In Queensland, there are never heaters. There are never open fires. There are nothing like that. And there was probably a reason for that back in the day. It never got hot, never got cold, or cold enough to warrant a fire. But through climate change, now all of a sudden, people in Brisbane are experiencing single-degree mornings. Okay, maybe it was always a thing. I just don't remember it always being a thing. Bit weird. You and I better talk, Starseed. You and I better talk. That's all I'm going to say about that one. Yes, the weather is certainly manipulated, JJ. It can't. What was it, JJ? Whoever said that. Definitely manipulated. -20 in Caronsville. Yeah, that sounds a bit chilly. Oh, yes, the Galactic Larrikins. -2 the other morning in Canberra, and snow today, I am led to believe. Snow today in Canberra. So marvellous part of the world. All right, folks, I'll let you go off and do the things that you want to do. I'll give you another 3 minutes to have a look at this little video that I put together to show you the drive in to the mine, or at least a part of it. Thank you once again to Rob and his family. And thank you for your support, folks. Of course, if you want to be part of the family, we would love to have you. VoFHQ.com is the website. You can go there and click on the memberships tag, and for as little as $1.25 a week, you can take out a membership, and that helps us put a bit of fuel in the car and get off to our next gig, which won't be in the too distant future. And John Wilson's coming on the road, so that's going to be fun. So keep an ear out. We'll have an announcement for that in the next couple of days or two, and we'll see which direction we're going to go with that. But yeah, by all means, membership will have its benefits, folks. So if you want to help us that way, be a member, be a bronze or a silver or a gold member. And if you would just prefer to give us a small donation of any size, then there is a donate button on the website too. God love you and bless you for anything that you can do for us to keep us on the road. We do this for you. I don't have a job in anywhere else in the world doing any other thing. And I'm happy to do this. But getting on the road and doing it with you is the hardest part of it, because those costs have got to be paid for somewhere along the line. And I'm happy to do my bit, and that might just mean I've got to go back out and dig some gold. Back out where? Back out here. Have a good night, folks. And I don't think anything could be any truer about dickheads on the road when you're talking about some of the roads like this.
Through Just so we're all sure. Palmy on the Palmer.